So this is a bit of a long one. And for anybody who has the book, it's chapter 27, page 164. I'm starting from Mommy, Are You Ready? So here it goes. Mommy, are you ready? It's time for lessons, Daniel reminded me softly. I had opted to be his tutor instead of getting one. It was not easy being a parent-teacher because sometimes those two roles conflicted. As his mother, I was emotionally vested in his progress, but as his tutor, I couldn't afford to be. Mrs. Aluko had made good on her promise to increase his workload. Now he had more homework to tackle and was struggling to catch up. I drew out the chair at the head of the dining table and sat next to him. We were studying for a science test holding the next day after just finishing with his English assignment. Classification of living things sounds like an interesting topic, Daniel. You know what? Read the note while I make you a sandwich. Then I will ask you questions. I left him and made my way to the kitchen. It didn't take me long to make his sandwich. Thankfully, he liked his ham and cheese toasted, so this bought me some time. Time for him to read the notes and time for me to say a prayer. Lord, help me help him, I muttered under my breath. These lessons drained me. The sandwich was ready, but I wasn't, so I popped into Isabel's room and checked up on her. She had a workstation there and was busy with her homework. Is that for me, Mama? She asked, her eyes darting from me to the sandwich on the plate I was holding. Then she got up to grab it before I could answer. Well, I guess it is now, I responded with a smile. I bought more time returning to the kitchen to make another. Nice and crispy, just like you like it, D-boy, I said as I placed the plate down and settled back in the chair next to him. Are you ready? He looked up at me nervously. I think so. So I'll ask the question and you will write down the answers. I started reading the question slowly, studying his face as I did. Living things are classified into how many groups? I gave him a few seconds to write down his answers before asking the next question. What are the classifications? I waited again. Okay, read your answers. Can I eat some of the sandwich before it gets cold? I knew he was deflecting, but I nodded anyway. He took a bite and started chewing slowly. Can I have some juice, Mama? I looked at his chubby face and greasy lips and felt my exasperation rising. I wanted to scold him and tell him to answer the questions or face the naughty corner, but those tactics had failed in the past. Instead, I said, I have a new pack of Cherry Blast in the fridge, so you can have some. He got off the chair hurriedly and skipped off to the kitchen. I took the paper he had scribbled his answers on and turned it over. My heart sank. He had been doodling. I couldn't make out anything. No questions were answered, just incomprehensible scribbles. I cupped my face, closed my eyes, and let out a long sigh. Then I realized he was still in the kitchen. Daniel, hurry up with that juice and get back here. Do you want some juice too, Mama? Nope, just you. We have a lot to get through. He came back with the cup in his hand, his lips now stained purple with its content. Now I settled back. I asked again, pretending not to have read his script. Read out your answers. The first one or the second one? Let's start with the first. Okay, Mama, the question was what again? I wanted to scream. Into how many groups are living things classified? I responded, reading the question slowly. Oh, okay, yes, there are, he started looking at me for clues. 7, dragging out the word like he was unsure. Correct. It was a lucky guess, but we both chose to pretend it wasn't. Well done. Now the second question. He looked at me hesitantly. You want me to repeat the question? He nodded. What are the classifications of living things? I took a quick look at my watch. It had been 45 minutes since we started, and we're still on the first assignment. Okay, mommy, but I need to pee. Can I be excused, please? I cracked my knuckles anxiously. No, Daniel. When you answer the question, then you can be excused. But I really need to go. It must be all that juice. So answer quickly then. His shoulders dropped and his face bowed in defeat. He began to mutter almost inaudibly. The classifications of living things are kingdoms, classes. Go on, I urged. I've forgotten the rest, he said. I could tell he was embarrassed. He knew he had been caught amidst all his delay tactics. It's fine if you forget, but you should just admit that instead of wasting our time, I said, being careful to correct him without shaming him. Let's write them down and decide how best to memorize the points, I said with a smile. Okay, mommy. So do you want a song or a poem? A cool song, Mom. He looked relaxed now. All the anxiety was gone, and oddly enough, so was the urge to pee. We began to sing, reading off the textbook, bobbing our heads in unison to the beats and catchy tune I had instinctively made up. Kingdoms, divisions, classes and order, family groups, species. These are the classifications of living things. That's funny, Mom. Let's go on again, he said, laughing hysterically. Kingdom, division, classes and order, family group, species. These are the classifications of living things. We were singing and dancing. Daniel started drumming. I put a clench to my fist. I clenched my fist to my mouth, pretending it was a microphone, and attempted to break dance to the beat. Daniel mimicked my dance moves, laughing hysterically. These are the classifications of living things. We chorused the outro of our new song. Isabel walked in. You two are so noisy. I thought Daniel was studying. I am. It's science, and Mom is the best teacher, he said, slightly out of breath. Isabel joined the singing and dancing. All right, guys, let's get serious. You still have to answer the question on the paper. I was slightly out of breath. Daniel was visibly excited. Ask me again, Mommy, ask again. What are the classifications of living things? I responded. He sat down, scribbling with his chubby fingers. I could hear him humming the tune of our new song under his breath as he wrote. He was done in seconds. I looked at his note. All 7 classifications were written boldly and neatly. I marked them each with a big red tick and followed with 7/7, circled and signed off with excellent. Well done, Daniel, I said, clapping for him and drawing him in for a tight hug. I will never forget it. You are the best teacher, Mama. I glanced at my watch again. We got it done. It only took 2.5 hours.
Shay, for me, you have to come up singing that song. All right, so we're going to introduce our guest today. Of course, we all know Tommy. I didn't know you could sing like that. Now I know. And our mystery guest, Shay, for me, who is... There we go. I can't get that song out of my head. So Daniel, Shay, for me, I want to ask you a question. So 2 things. One is, do you remember that moment? And it's fine if you don't, but I would also like you to explain how your relationship with your mother has been through your journey.
I'd say in regards to that particular moment, it was definitely a surreal moment to reminisce on, just because it reminded me of how differently I had to navigate school life and making friends and just other aspects of my young life. I remember when I was in school, when I moved schools from Middle to CIS, they made me use a laptop instead of just writing to do my schoolwork, just because my handwriting wasn't as legible. And there were so many moments where I was just looking at that as, why do I have to be different to everyone else? But in hindsight, I feel like God has taught me that it's important to own those aspects of your identity. Because and in regards to how it's impacted my relationship with my mom, it's made us as close as we could possibly be. And initially, I resented it just a little bit, only because I felt like I wanted that independence. My mom is very hands-on. You know, she loves being involved with every aspect of my life. And at times it felt overbearing, just because I was trying to handle what was going on in my own head, trying to navigate all these differences that I have to live with. But I'm grateful now, because I feel comfortable telling my mom anything. There's nothing I want to explore or anything that I'm maybe apprehensive about that I can't go to her and talk about. So I definitely say it's been a crucial part in developing what is now a really strong bond between me and my mom. So.
Who else needs tissues? Because oh wow. Sorry. That's what it is. But I was privileged to be a mom at CIS when Sheifumi was there, and he was a head boy. And I remember when I randomly fell in love with Tommy at her store. Like literally, I went to exclamations, and I met her there, and that's really how our friendship. You know when you say there are friendships that you intentionally curate. This is one of those ones, and I'm just so thankful to be your friend. And learning that Sheifumi had dyslexia, when I read the book, I would never. Do you know what I mean? I would never. There's no way I would have known. Not that it means you should know, but I think it just shows the perception of what we think differences actually mean, So this brings me to this question, Tommy, which is just around education and the choice of school and the kind of support that you saw the two different sides, right? When he had support and when he didn't. And I would like for you to talk about the importance of that when parents are choosing schools for their children.
Well, in Nigeria, it was tough because, like most parents, I didn't even know what it was. And so when it came to looking for a school, I didn't even know what to look out for. So I first of all started by looking for a school with a strong SENCO. And I think we were just blessed that at the time we found CIS, the SENCO, the head of SENCO was just being hired, and she was this lovely German woman who herself was dyslexic and had a dyslexic daughter who was an undergrad. So she was super passionate about, helping children with dyslexia. And because Sheifumi was her very first student, she just took him under, like, this is my baby. And to be honest, I think most of the support was for me, not so much for him. Because for her, she didn't see what the big deal was. She would say, I would go to her panicking and say to her, what are we going to do about his handwriting? His handwriting. I can't read it. Who can read it? And she would say to me, Sheifumi's mommy, why are you stressing over a dying skill? I said, what do you mean by a dying skill? She said, well, my daughter is an undergrad now, and she doesn't remember when last she wrote anything. And then she said, she threw it back at me, when last did you actually physically take pen and paper and write down an essay? I said, I've not written in a long time. She said, that's the point. So his writing may not be legible, but give him a few years, he doesn't even need to write. So what else is your problem? And this, every time I would come back to her and I'll say, oh, this and that. And she says, you know what? All we need is to guard his confidence through these academic years. She says, that's all. That's all. Our goal is to protect his confidence through these academic years. Once we get past that, he will fly. And that's what's most important. And then again, she threw it back at me. She said, what you are doing right now, how much of it has to do with your degree? Not so much. Okay? And she said, really, what is your selling point? I said, okay, your confidence, your human relations, how you're able to problem solve. Yes. She said, so those are the real skills that we need to develop. And, just going back to some of his even earlier tutors, his very first head of school, and I put that in the book, she said something to me, even this was before I even knew what dyslexia was. And when he struggled even at the nursery school level, she said to me, you have to make peace with the fact that Shefumi is not going to be a professor. And once you can be okay with the fact that he's not going to be a professor, then, you can start looking at other things that he's really good at and then find a school that would nurture those things. Everything she said went over my head. I said, what are you talking about? He will be a professor in Jesus' name. So when I look back, I remember her words. She had seen something in him that was special, and she knew, okay, she couldn't see him past that nursery school level, but she was hoping that I would also see that special thing she saw and nurture that for him. So I think for me, in answering your question, the help I got was really from people helping me understand him. And the help I was able to give to him came from me understanding him and managing my expectations about what was possible. Now the sky is the limit. He's overcome those difficult academic years. He's bang in the middle of his passion, and the rest is history.
Okay, so I'm a parenting coach. So I'm going to label your parenting style, which is the best one there is. No, it's true. Parenting really is about not what you think your child is. It's not about parenting the child you think or thought you would get. It's about parenting the child you have and helping them thrive in whatever shape or form that means, and getting out of the way. Even when you want to be in the way, but getting out of the way. You shall. But you're kind of on the way. But no, really, to share for me, this is going to be for you. And I want you to talk about your experiences, what you know now, how you would advise somebody today. If you were also to go back and think about the young you, what would you say to him? And how would you use that to springboard to say, what advice would you give a young person today and potentially their family who are struggling with how do we navigate what is different from what we thought? There's a lot of things wrapped in there, but I know you can handle it.
Firstly, I want to speak on the transition between schools. When I left Meadowhall and I first joined CIS, it was kind of like a culture shock. Just because growing up, it was really hard for me to make friends. And the small friends that I did have, I wanted to hold on to them as much as I could. But I was too young to see that I needed help in developing my thought processes and just being able to take in information. So initially it was a struggle for me to make my mark and kind of just make myself known, make my presence felt in the school. But over time, with the support that I had from my family and obviously the Senko that they had at CIS, I grew to realize that my differences didn't make me a hindrance to anybody's experiences, but rather they were going to boost my own individual, experiences. Differences don't make you less qualified than anyone there, but those differences are exactly why you are there. So really embrace who you are. I think something that really helped me as well was I was in an environment that developed passions that I didn't really realize I had. I grew a strong sense of leadership while I was at CIS. a desire to be there for somebody so they don't have to experience the things that I did. So I definitely say another thing that I would tell someone is understand that there's someone who is in your position right now asking for someone to guide them. So understand that those differences are knowledge that empowers you to be there for someone. And finally, I think growing up, the greatest thing I've had in my life is like an individual relationship with Jesus. I think understanding that his word really holds value and that you are beautifully and wonderfully made. All the things that you feel make you outside of what society tells you to be are exactly what God is going to use to prosper you. I think those 3 individual lessons have definitely shaped me into what I think God is making me to be. So those are the main things I'd advise anyone.